Hello, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Nell Wood. This is going to be about 45 minutes with relaxation. So hopefully you've got enough time and you've got all your gear gathered and you've got space to do yoga and you're finding yourself feeling physically well. You're always in charge of, you know, what you do, and please just take what I'm offering as suggestions. You're always making the choice to serve you. So when you're ready, either laying down or finding that comfortable seat, whether you want to close your eyes or not, you're letting your awareness come inward to your breath. Letting yourself set aside all that's going on externally and be just with your breath and your body right here, right now, for the time being. So if you haven't already, shut your eyes or just let your gaze fall softly on something in front of you. You're not really focusing on it, but you're not, if your eyes are open, trying not to dart around. Just be with that. So it's that internal gaze, right? You're bringing that awareness internally to the breath and the body settling. And this is where you might notice pain or discomfort, or maybe it feels really good. Either way, try not to judge, try not to attach, just be with your breath. Letting that breath go in and out of your body. Right, you're breathing any way that feels good to you, whether it be through your nose or your mouth or a combination of your nose and mouth. No matter what you're doing, you're letting the breath, though, be full and deep as feels good to you. Making sure that you're always comfortable. Also, if you're seated and your toes and feet get tingly, make sure that you arrange yourself and situate yourself so that doesn't really happen. So take time to arrange and adjust, and then once again, come inward to your breath. And right away, you are setting the intention to speak to yourself with kindness, compassion, and love. If it's not something you typically do, this is where you practice it, and then I'm going to encourage you to take it with you off the mat. Just returning to the breath whenever you find yourself distracted, whenever you find yourself even a little uncomfortable, back to the breath. That is what helps to keep you grounded. And let that breath move deep into your body on the inhale. You're filling up the lungs and you're filling up the lower third, then the middle third, then the upper third, and then releasing fully upper, middle, lower. You can even have your hands resting on your body and you can feel that navel press into the space in front of you, and then the ribs move up and apart, and then the breath goes into the upper third. The heart lifts up a little bit in your chest. And then exhale, heart and chest relax, ribs move down and together, and then you pull that navel back and up into your body. And then the inhale happens again, and you fill up navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel, over and over again. Recommitting back to the breath, recommitting back to the present moment whenever you find yourself distracted. Stay with that awareness of how it feels in your body. If you are laying down, coming to a seat, we are going to start the warm-up seated. Press yourself up. Don't hurt yourself. Don't put any pressure on your limbs. When you get to your seat, everyone, in that comfortable, easy pose. Get that first girdle engaged. So you're pulling that back body down, lifting that front body, pressing the knees away, flexing the feet, only if that's comfortable. That just gives this base, this sturdy, supported base. And then keep that base engaged, and from that base, lift yourself and stretch yourself up into all that space around you. That space is yours to take up. You're meant to take it up. It is big enough for you, and in fact, it even should hopefully have enough room for you to bring your arms out from your body. So you are not only pressing down and engaging and becoming that stable base, that rock that's happening from within, you're also at the same time lifting. That heart lifts. So here that upper girdle gets involved, that heart lifts, your blades come down and together. So the front body's lifting, the back body is pulling down. Both are happening. Inhaling, and still you're breathing full and deep. It almost feels like, at least to me, it feels like there's like right underneath the, at these muscles right here on the side, these obliques, it feels like right at the rib cage, like there's like my wings. I feel like I am my own rock, and I'm also giving myself that light lift, those wings. So be with that breath, notice it. It comes from within, the sensation from within, that sensation of lifting the front body and pulling that back body down. You're doing that from within. I want you to take that off the mat as well. Your hands can make their way to your heart. Shoulders stay out of your ears. Keep pressing the crown of your head up and your tail down into the floor. Of course, if you need to relax engagement anytime, please do. Take time to bow and set any personal intention you might be working on or wanting to focus on, planting that seed. And then keeping those girdles engaged. So I want you to keep yourself supported. The arms are going to lift and reach, and try to feel this move at the shoulder. Keep the shoulder out of your ears. Don't hurt your elbows. Hands reach up. Exhale into your heart center. Inhaling again. Exhaling again. Third time. So sealing in those intentions. Getting ready to move through the postures. If you're sitting up tall on something, take time to bring it out from underneath you so you have got more of that stable base. Definitely if you had yourself in any sort of curled up position, take time, and you're in charge of how far away your legs are, or how close they are to each other, how far away they are to your body. So I want you to experiment. Try not to put all your weight on those arms though. I want you to try to stay lifted in that trunk. So I'm trying to get you to pay attention to how your trunk is doing the work, not your limbs. So after a few side to side, just to wake up, we're going to come into that nice forward fold position. Practice that row. This is still really early. I'm going to bring that blanket so it's right underneath me. I'm going to bring my blocks, pressing those legs forward. Keep those knees bent. Press through those heels. Keep lifting up with that front body. Keep pulling down with that back body. You want that hinge to happen. We are in this pose seated. We're in this pose standing a lot. I want it to feel the same. So pay attention to how the crown of your head and your tail are reaching in two opposite directions. And your hands can be either resting on top of those thighs or down by your sides. You're not putting any weight on them no matter what you're doing. Because everything's happening in that lower trunk. That is what's keeping you steady and solid. And then that upper trunk is lifting to get that lightness. And then here's where you're going to decide, do I want to reach wide, keeping that girdle engaged, and hinge, bringing myself only as far forward as feels good. Once again, try not to have the arms do really any work. They're just really there to go along for the ride. It's your trunk. And if reaching wide does not feel good, there's always the lift straight up route. You're keeping those legs engaged as much as feels good. And of course, if the lifting up is not really what's feeling good today, you can still get a really good row. Get that body, that lower body, that lower girdle starting to activate. Eventually, you're going to pause. Inhale and exhale, reaching only as far as feels good. Remember, the more you keep those knees really bent, the more you keep pulling those kneecaps up into your thighs, the more you keep pressing down with your sitting bones and pressing through your heels, the more you're going to get that stable base. And then you're going to be able to lift from that place. And then here's where you're going to let yourself lift up. Here's where you do let the engagement go. Let those legs, once again, just windshield wiper. Another really good thing, after holding any engagement, you can see I'm just gently, I am bouncing my legs on the mat. That's not a harsh move, and I'm keeping very much control of my knees, and they're not hurting. I'm not adding any strain to them at all. Keeping my kneecaps pulled up into my thighs helps to protect. All right, eventually you're going to bring yourself back from whatever position you're doing into that comfortable seated pose. Make sure you've got room next to you and maybe even a little behind you, keeping that shoulder girdle engaged. Reach those arms wide and then let yourself float to one side. You're keeping that lower body, it doesn't matter which way you go because we're going to go both sides. So you're keeping your lower body nice and active, and your legs don't have to be crossed. They can also be in the butterfly position, finding that solid base, and then you are lifting and reaching. It's more like you're lifting and reaching just your heart. You're keeping your navel. I want you to keep your navel pretty well grounded. Here's where you're going to pause. I am looking to the right. My navel is staying grounded, and actually I'm trying to pull my navel back towards the middle of my legs. And I am gently pulling then my upper body. It's not a big move. I'm pulling it to the right. I'm looking over that right shoulder, only if it feels good. You don't have to. You can have your gaze wherever if you've even got your eyes open. Take a couple breaths, inhaling and exhaling. And then notice, remember which way you are. And then in case you weren't going to the right, I want you to notice. I want you to pause. I want you to bring those hands to your heart, your navel, one of each. So unwind, and yes, I know you have another side, and don't worry, I'm not going to forget it. But I just want you to pay attention to how it feels, and then start to go into movement. But I want you to do that side-to-side thing a few more times. So you're keeping that navel nice and stable, and you are lifting the heart and rotating the heart. You're going to pause. So that keeps that lower back nice and protected. Remember, your legs, however, feel good. Try not to hold on to your own self for dear life, right? That just gives a little extra. And that back hand is never doing any work. And your gaze is wherever, your nose is pointing wherever. Inhale and exhale. Keep trying to pull that navel back towards the center as you lift and rotate the heart to the left. Here's where you come back through center. Let yourself come back into that seated pose. If you need to move through a few sides, please do. I'm going to grab a quick drink. I didn't mention that before. Make sure you've got something to drink to keep yourself hydrated. Letting yourself come around onto your hands and knees. I still got cushion down to keep my knees protected. You're going to walk your legs as wide as feels comfortable. It probably isn't going to be very wide. Your toes do not even have to touch. I know there's different schools of thought, but it really should be whatever feels good in your body, right? So if it feels good to have your toes touch and that's what works for you, then please do. You'll notice I've got blocks in front of me. I'm being very careful with my elbows. I am not hyperextending my elbows, but that just gives this nice extra, to me it feels at least extra. You might not like it, but it's one of those things. Try it. And if you don't like it, then don't do it. But please don't hyperextend any joints doing it. Inhaling and exhaling, you're still breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel, and try to still have that sensation of pressing back with your whole self and then lifting and reaching with your whole self. And it's that sensation of pressing your tail down and back and then lifting your crown. Inhale and exhale. I know this is a resting posture, but you're still doing work in it. Actually, I think you're doing work in everything. You just don't know that. You're always, you definitely can learn to rest. I think it's a better rest because that engagement helps you then relax. So it's like you're giving yourself this nice self-massage from within. It's like it's coming from within. All right, so we're coming into that stable table. This is where you lift yourself up. Knees come right underneath your hips. Hands right underneath your shoulders, and you do not hyperextend those elbows. Move through those teeny tiny cat and cow. So this is just that pelvic tilt. I want you to find that place of support. You're pulling that back body down, lifting the front body, and then the upper body that's teeny tiny cat and cow with the upper girdle engagement where you pull the blades together and then pull them apart. The supported place is pulling them apart, and then your cat and cow is in the middle. I know I have a lot of setup to getting to cat and cow. I'm very specific, and everything matters. In my world, everything matters, everything counts. And if I'm calling out all those specific things, it's not for you to be, you can really do whatever you want, right? But it really is, those are cues to help you protect yourself. That's what I'm trying to get you to do, is protect yourself. All right, you're still moving through that cat and cow. You're not hyperextending any joints. You're pressing down evenly with your whole self and then feeling at the same time that lift, hopefully, under all of your limbs. Eventually, you're going to come to a still table. This is where it is taxing, right? So bring yourself back into a child if that would feel good. Let yourself release from any engagement or as much engagement as you need to release for. This is where even if you're holding yourself in your trunk, you still might feel it in your wrists. So you're doing gentle circles and then you are re-engaging into your table. I find that block sometimes helps with hand, like if you have a lot of sensation in your hands, it helps. I don't want your shoulder to be too much higher than your hip, so that's what I want you to pay attention to. And of course, you are still not hyperextending those elbows. But if you find that your chest is sunken a lot, I think that the blocks might help you. So they helped me tremendously. So I am still pulling that back body down, lifting that front body. Here's where I'm going to let the left leg press back. Here's where I want to make sure you don't kick anything. Press that left leg back, press through that heel. Try to keep those hips square. So pay attention. Is that left leg just floating up in the air? And that's okay if it is, but I want you to, it's getting rowdy, I want you to pull it down so it's right there in line with your hip, and then pay attention. Is it floating out to the left side? And if it is, you're pulling it to the midline. In fact, you're always trying to pull everything to the midline and then reach from that place of pulling. So here's only if it feels good, do you reach that right arm. If you're like, no thanks, this right here is a lot, because it is, then just stay right here. And then here's where you make the choice. If you want to bring that arm down, we're going to inhale and then exhale, come into that cat, pull that knee and that elbow towards each other, and then reach back out. And you can be like, no thanks, how about I leave both arms down and then just do nose to knee? And I'd be like, that'd be great too. That's what I'm showing you right here. There's all kinds of modifications you can do. Keep breathing. Don't hyperextend on that elbow. All right, you're going to pause. I want you to pay attention which arm and leg you were moving, because we're going to pause, take complete rest. We're going to then do the other side, right? I know we've got two sides. I remember, and I love it. I want to do both sides. That's one of my favorite yoga jokes, is about saying you can do the right side or the other side at home, right? You'll get it later, right? No, you won't. I won't do that to you. I won't do you wrong. All right, back into that stable table. So you are pulling that back body down, lifting that front body, coming into that stable table position. Not hyperextending those elbows. Don't dip down into the left side as you press that right foot back behind you, and pay attention to where that leg is. Is it floating up? Is it floating to the right? And if it is, you're just pulling it down into, I mean, you can even take, if it doesn't hurt you, do not hurt yourself, take a gander back there. And then only if it serves you do you reach with that opposite limb. This is you practicing spinal balance. Keep trying not to dip down on that right side. Stay lifted. And remember, you can always bring that left arm down as you come into that cat stretch, bringing that knee in, or you're bringing the elbow. They don't even have to touch. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. If you are falling all over the place, you're not taking yourself too seriously. You're just not hurting yourself. Keep pulling that back body down. Keep lifting that front body no matter what position you're in, no matter what's going on. Inhale and exhale. It's a lot to pay attention to. You can't think about what's going on in your life. All right, we're going to pause in that table to come back into your child, resting completely. Right, so you can't even move on to like your to-do list or think about what you got to do later. You've got so much to pay attention to inside your body, and it's amazing what is going on, and I love it. It just feels amazing. It feels like I am at the happiest place in the world always, and it's inside of me. That's just not usually how it's talked about, I know. All right, I want everyone to feel that, though, because it feels amazing. All right, you're back into your table. All the same stuff applies. I never change my story. It's always the same. Back body down, front body up, no matter what position. Don't hyperextend those elbows. Here's where you curl those toes. And lift that lower girdle up to come into your downward dog. And if you're like, no thanks, I'm just going to stay in this stable table she's been talking about, that is perfectly fine. Because that is I'm going to take a layer off. That's why I'm coming back down. You do what feels good to you. If you're in that downward dog, I want you to find your balls. Of course, it feels good to stretch and be on your toes, and so do that. But you are settling in on the ball of your foot. So that means you can lift your toes away. And if you have to walk your legs in closer, then do that. Keep those knees bent. Keep those shoulders out of your ears and only move as much or as little as feels good. This is a hinge. And if you want to come down to hands and knees, to then move to, and I'm using blocks again, coming to the front of my space, or you're just walking up, you're finding yourself in that forward fold. So make sure you take the time to find those 2 feet attached to those legs, right attached to that hip girdle. You're keeping those knees bent. You're moving as much or as little as feels good. Once again, not using the toes. Try to put the weight in the back body. Use something for you to play around with that feeling of coming a little bit forward and coming a little bit back, and you finding that place in the middle. And then once you feel steady, here's where we're going to come into that halfway up. Hands at the blocks or at the floor. You're going to inhale and lift yourself halfway into that flat back. Keep breathing. Press the crown and the tail in opposite directions. Keep breathing. Take an exhale. Then take another inhale, and then exhale, come forward into that forward fold. So we're going to do this a couple more times. It really helps to keep the knees bent. It helps to find that place of where you're supporting. Remember, don't let the toes do any work. Inhale halfway into that flat back. Hands could be right at your hips or reaching if you want a little bit more. Exhale back down. Now this third time, if you want to come up in that great big reverse swan dive to that back bend and you do not get dizzy or vomit, then go for it. But if you're like, I'm going to come up in steps, I don't want you to round because that's not really good for you. I want you to come up in steps. Awkward chair, squat, and then press yourself up. And only when you get up and feel steady, then lift yourself into as much of a back bend. But it's all the same stuff. This is the back body pulling down, the front body lifting up, and you are like, it's that you always hear like you're bending over an imaginary beach ball, right? Like a really big beach ball. Or bring yourself back into standing. Inhale and exhale. If that helps, that cue helps with that, then great. But it's all about this. Well, that was one of those back bends. That's one of those things.
if you're not holding that lower pelvis in that place, you can hurt yourself and it can feel like crap. And you're like, why would I ever do that? But once you learn to hold that girdle, and then you feel yourself lift and reach, and then you can feel like, oh yeah, I can do that little bit of back bend. Because you need to be able to do that for the rest of your life. Because you don't need to be able to go all the way back. But you need to be able to do some sort of movement back, and you're holding yourself. That's what this is all about. All right, that's what I'm all about. That's the only yoga I teach. Find yourself in that mountain. You are pressing into those feet, lifting those digits, finding the balls and heels. Sometimes you think about the tripod or the four corners, whatever makes sense in your head. Spread those digits and then bring them forward for that gentle grip on the mat. The kneecaps stay nice and soft, never hyperextended, and you're always pulling those kneecaps up into your thighs. First girdle gets involved. This is muscle and framework. Pull that back body down, lift that front body. Think navel dimples down, solid base. And then navel dimples up. That's where it's light. That's where the wings come in. Heart lifts, blades come down. You feel that slight pressure on your shoulders. You are in your mountain, whether your arms are down at your side or somewhere on your body, breathing full and deep. Remember, it's not just you squeezing your glutes and pulling those blades together and sucking in your gut. It is a combination of the back body and the front body working together to find that place of support. Inhale and exhale. And so if you aren't in the middle of your space, find yourself in the middle of your space. In that mountain, you are standing on railroad tracks, your feet right underneath your hips, keeping awareness on where that navel is and where your heart. And then you're going to step forward, keep those knees nice and not hyperextended. Just step forward just like a step, and I want you to feel your whole foot on the floor. Like I'm not going anywhere. It's my balls and my heels. The toes are just barely gripping. So it might not be a very wide stance. Mine's not a very wide stance. Press evenly down between your right and your left leg, holding yourself in that lower girdle. Have those blocks because we're going to hinge. This is where I want you to challenge yourself, either hands at your heart or your hips, or this is where more of a challenge if you reach wide, or even more of a challenge, keep that upper girdle engaged, lift up above your head, and hinge into that pyramid hinge. That's what this is. And if you did whatever you did and it does not work out, there's no shame. There's nothing wrong with bringing yourself into a different position. Look at me. I'm going into all the positions. Like, I love it. I'm even showing another one with the reach back. All right, here's where this is not a rounding. I'm never going to have you round. Just like I'm never going to have you twist that little back, I'm never going to have you round. I want you to hinge. You're keeping that lower body engaged, but you're letting that upper body now reach more for the floor. Sometimes people reach for their leg. Sometimes people can touch the floor. I personally love the block. You are pressing evenly into both legs. Pay attention to your hips if you can. I love to look in mirrors or set up your camera so you can see video so you can see how your hips are. Inhale and exhale. Now we're going to challenge ourselves again. Don't hyperextend those knees. Hands come to wherever you're lifting. This is a lot. You're hinging up now with that one leg in front, one leg behind. We're going to remember which leg you have in front. I have the right leg in front. You're going to bring those legs back together and just that little bit of engagement, and hopefully you notice and you can feel how when your body goes back into the place it was it's not even the place it was before. It's changed. You are completely changed. Because doing that pose, even though it's subtle and not very big, it's a lot. It's intense. It's taxing. So it's uncomfortable. So that uncomfortableness is definitely where change happens. All right, back into your mountain, lower body, back body. The lower body and the back body work together. The front body and the upper body work together, and then they all work together in order to hold you upright. And we're going to bring that left leg forward just on one step, and like you're on railroad tracks, and I want you to, so it's like you've got, and I want you to feel yourself engaged. You're still pulling that back body down, still lifting the front body. I didn't talk about it in the last, but the back pockets and your front pockets. I always like to have them even. And then you can even check your side pockets. All right, here's where you're gonna decide. Maybe you wanna keep your hands in your back pockets. This is a big stretch. As you hinge, that's what we're doing, hinging, keep those knees protected by pulling those kneecaps up into your thighs and not hyperextending. Try to find evenness between both legs. Try not to find more on the front or more on the back. Inhale and exhale. Here's where you're going to let your arms come from whatever they're doing, and I want you to hinge now. Reach for those blocks, or maybe you're reaching for somewhere on your leg, but once again, I don't really want you to round. I want you to try to keep that upper body nice and engaged, and you're always lifting that front body. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. All right, same thing. Challenge yourself. Hands go wherever you're lifting. This is your back body is pulling down, the front body lifting up to bring you up to standing. That's how it all works, right? And that's also physics. So it's just amazing. Once you feel it in your body, you feel the hamstrings doing that. Hopefully you feel that. Hopefully later you're like, dang, my hamstrings, my hammies. And you're going to be like, thank you. And I'll be like, you're welcome. Because you're going to be able to walk for the rest of your life. So that's what that's about. It's not about having a sexy butt. All right, find yourself. This is where maybe you want to be next to a wall or a sturdy piece of furniture. I also love blocks for this. We're going to do a variation of tree with the blocks. If it's good for you, you can also just do tree. Oh, I almost fell back, but I caught myself. That was kind of fun. So I'm going to bring that blocks to either side. I'm back in that mountain. I'm engaging. We haven't really talked about the internal and the external rotation of the legs, but everything we've done has been in that neutral position. And so I want you to feel that neutral position. And then keeping that awareness and how you're holding yourself in that lower trunk. The right leg is going to come up, bend at the knee, and you're going to still keep it in that neutral. You're not externally or internally rotating. And this is where you might want to have one arm on a wall or a heavy piece of furniture. That kneecap of the leg you're standing on is not hyperextended, and it's pulled up. The knee's not hyperextended, the kneecap's pulled up into the thigh. The toe's not doing any work. Here's where the external rotation comes into tree. But if you want, which I think it adds just a little bit more, and I'm not hardly putting any weight on that block because I'm holding myself in my trunk, and that's where I'm trying to get you to hold yourself. But that adds a little bit more. I mean, like, I can feel that right leg externally rotated, that left leg in that neutral position. You don't have to challenge yourself with bringing your arms up. You can play around with then bringing that leg to somewhere, keeping that external rotation. Remember, you're doing whatever feels good to you. You're not giving yourself a hard time if you're falling all over the place. This is one of those things, the more you practice, right, the easier it gets. You don't even have to bring that foot up, right? I didn't even offer this, where you can have that foot down. But I want you to challenge yourself and remember what leg is lifted and which is externally rotated, and then bring it so it's back down next to its mate, and then let yourself just breathe. Navel, ribs, chest, exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Same thing, other side. Pull that back body down, lift that front body. Ooh, keep those legs neutral until you're ready to externally rotate, and that's what I'm doing. I'm externally rotating, and it's just coming right to the side here. And I can feel then I'm trying to pull both glutes down and lift both hip flexors. It is a lot of things going on, and it can be varying degrees of sensation. So you are honoring where you're at, but keep protecting yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Inhale and exhale. Though I do think that to really, that hurts so good, that kind of sensation, I definitely do like that good stretch sensation, and that's what I'm helping you getting and what I'm leading you through. All right, take your time, challenge yourself if you want, kick it if you want, bring yourself down into your mountain. Notice how you feel, breathing full and deep,
navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Here's where I'm going to come to the back of my space. And I'm going to come into that forward hinge, keeping those legs bent, and then come out, bringing those hands down. Those kneecaps stay pulled up into my thighs, coming into a downward dog. Taking 3 to 4 breaths here in that downward dog, and then making my way into child. If you want to come right to child, please do. Inhaling and exhaling, stay with your breath. So we've worked up some good oxygenated blood. So let's do a couple more big stretches before we go into relaxation. So I'm going to offer up pigeon posture, and I was going to demonstrate a regular pigeon, which is the upright king pigeon, I guess it's called. But this is definitely where you can feel that rotation, because it's the same as what you did in tree. So if you bring that right leg, and if you're coming through downward dog, you're externally rotating that right leg as you bring it forward. That's what gets that right foot up by that left hand, that right knee up by that right hand, and then bring that left leg down, trying to find the top of the knee. Keep the navel and the heart square to the floor, and then bring yourself forward. Back pockets, front pockets, even. You don't have to come through like I showed you. If you're like, oh, I can never do what you just did, well, you don't have to. You can also do it from table. Bring that foot up. You're externally rotating still, bringing that right foot up to that left hand, that right knee. See, I'm using a little bit of weight of my upper body in order to find that place of support. And then from that, I come into the pigeon. And then there's also laying on the ground on your back in the, it's reclining pigeon, or sometimes they call it figure 4, because it looks kind of like a 4. Whatever you've chosen, you are breathing deep, letting your hips open. Inhale and exhale. Stay with that awareness of how your back pockets are working together. You want them even. Pull them down. Your front pockets working together. Pull them up. If you are in this position, where you're reclining, you're going to bring yourself up. If you're on your back, you can just switch. If you're seated, you can switch. If you're on the regular pigeon, for lack of a better word for what it is, you're moving through your transition, bringing yourself to the other side, and maybe you decide, you know what, I did it this one way the first time, and now I want to do it the other way on the other side. There's no law that says you cannot do that, and I in fact encourage you to make that call if that's what works for you at this moment in time, right here, right now, because that's all that matters, is right here, right now. So stay with your breath. Find the love for yourself. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. It helps to keep externally rotating. It's happening. You're doing it from within. You are actively externally rotating. And that gives this little kind of pinch at that hip. And it's not painful. It is just uncomfortable because it is making changes from the inside. That's the muscle and the tendons getting that blood flow. All right, here's where you're going to decide how you want to get on your back. And it doesn't have to look like anything fancy, and it doesn't have to be what you did before. You can always make a different choice, but then eventually you're going to find yourself down on the back. I am going to bring this little blanket for a little cushion for my occipital lobe. All right, so you're going to find yourself on your back first to start with. Have those legs bent. Keep trying to spread your whole trunk onto the ground and let those legs be wherever, whether you have the feet down or you have the feet up. But it does help to do that pelvic adjustment. Remember to pull that back body down, lift that front body. That's happening here while you're laying down as well, no matter what you choose. Inhaling and exhaling. No matter what you choose, you're going to bring your arms out shoulder height, no higher. Palms up or palms down, and then make your choice. of whether you have your legs up or not, heart stays anchored. I'm going to drop my knees and my navel to the left. That whole right side stays connected. So I'm coming into this beautiful, I think this is a beautiful stretch. It's happening all right there at that middle. Come back through center. Bring that navel now so it's back in line with that heart. And then keep that heart anchored. Same thing, other side, the navel winds. So I'm keeping those back pockets working together. I'm stacking those hips. Inhale and exhale. Sometimes you got to jiggle up onto that hip. And then eventually you're going to come back through center, rock, circle, whatever feels good to you. And here's where you are going to settle into your final relaxation posture. And I am going to sit in meditation, but I want you to take advantage of this time. And if it does not feel good for you to lay, you can also sit in meditation. So if it doesn't feel good to lay down in relaxation, sit in meditation and let yourself marinate in all of the awesomeness that's going on. All right, settle in. This is where the real magic happens. Showing up for yourself. Don't move on to your next thing. When the practice is over, everyday life is waiting for you. Don't just jump right back into it. Savor the quietness for a while. Whatever your next actions are, do them with mindfulness and allow this heightened awareness to linger throughout the rest of your day. Notice the openness in your body as you move. Smile often and pause frequently. Take time to return to awareness and enjoy it. Hopefully you're enjoying that awareness. So if however you're seated, take time, or however you're positioned, laying down or seated, small movements, twitches of the fingers and the toes, a gentle circling of the wrists and ankles, and then the bend of the knees and elbows, protecting yourself on your back. If you're laying on something, that you come back down onto the ground, and then roll to one side. Rest in that fetal-like position, that very first position you were ever in. Everyone brings their awareness to their navel, no matter what position they're in, and they are grateful to themselves for being born and grateful to themselves for doing yoga today. And then press yourself up if you're still laying down, making sure that the trunk is doing the work, not the limbs. Your hands can make their way to your heart. Take time to reflect on any intention set at the beginning of the practice and see if you can take it with you off the mat, and all the stuff I talked about not treating yourself like a jerk, being kind, right? And then putting the work into the trunk and not letting your toes do anything. That can all happen off the mat. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. It was my pleasure.